for coming today. When my sister Susan and I and my mother went to have our wills done years ago, my mother was adamant about just a few things. She said, I want to donate my body to science, which she did. I don't want a funeral, and I want you all to have a party. So that's why we're here today at Dorothy's request. All right. The luckiest thing that ever happened to me is that I was born Dorothy Pitzer's daughter. This past year, when I'd encounter a problem that seemed too difficult to solve, I'd say to myself, wait a minute, you're Dorothy Pitzer's daughter. You do not crash when you have a problem. If the going gets tough, if you fall, you get up. And you keep going until you don't fall anymore. Without ever saying it, that's what my mother taught me. And that may come as a surprise to some of you, because we all knew what a kind, gentle, and loving woman she was. But in her own quiet way, she was made of something as strong as steel, and something that helped her withstand all the challenges in her life and flourish. When she was diagnosed with cancer that first time, she had an operation, and the doctor came out of the operating room and gave us a little hope and was telling us he thought she wouldn't make it out of recovery. My brother Greg looked at him, kind of shook his head and said, you don't know my mom. And he was right. She went on to live 27 more years. I'm grateful to my mother for many things, but the one I want to thank her for today is passing on to me her love of books and of reading and writing. There were always books in our home, regular trips to the library and the bookmobile, for people who remember what that is. Books were welcomed presents and treasured objects. She often told the story of being 5 or 6 years old and getting off the school bus and running up to her farmhouse, calling out to her mother, I can read, I can read. It was that important to her. Even then, and that enthusiasm and wonder never left her. She was rarely without a book in her hand, and barely a conversation went by without her asking, so are you reading anything interesting? It's a question I often ask others and make sure I have a ready reply in case I am asked. Thank you, Mom, for the priceless gift of loving books, reading, writing, and learning. My mother embodied virtues that don't get much attention anymore. She was modest, graceful, she was dignified, she didn't gossip, criticize, preach, or swear. She was a lady, if I may use that old-fashioned term. And from what you've heard today, it probably sounds like we're saying my mother was a saint. Of course she wasn't, but she was a little bit like a Buddha. She was quiet, still, wise, compassionate, always with a trace of a smile on her face. Many of you saw her on her 90th birthday, and she was not one who wanted the spotlight. But on that day, she reveled in it, and in the honor and love we all bestowed upon her. I'm so grateful for that, because 6 months later, she had a stroke that began to eat away at her powers of reason and her memory. But even then, she never said a word about how difficult it was. She carried on and enjoyed her life and family to the fullest. It's my belief my mom decided how and when to die. It was on November 22nd, the same day her favorite president died. When she left us, her caregiver and I were holding her hands and singing to her, who sang a song she often sang with us in the car, You Are My Sunshine. I mean, really, is there a better way to go? At 95 in your own home with people singing to you? I don't think so. For a long time, I couldn't use the word die. I'd say my mother passed away. But the more I think about it, the more I think she didn't do either of those things. I think she was transformed. I don't know how, and I don't know where, but my mother lives on. And of course, lucky for us, she lives on in us and her grandchildren and in her great-grandson. She's gone, but not really. She's just transformed. So there's one thing I want to ask of you, Mom. I want you to haunt me. Although I will never be at risk of forgetting you, I need you by my side. You are my sunshine. So, I expect to see you, Mom, in a beautiful sunset, and also sunrise, a passing butterfly, a hummingbird who stops for just a second to look at me. And only in that way will I be able to stand the fact that you are gone, or rather, transformed. My mother was there when I took my first breath, and I was with her when she took her last breath. And I will be forever grateful for that great privilege and for the honor of being Dorothy Pitzer's daughter. Thank you all for coming.